Kakalosh Boker Tov. We're continuing on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph 83A1. So basically, what we were speaking about last time, we were on the two dots on the bottom of Pei Bet Amud Bet, where the last line where it says Chetzia lebayta minuga v'chetzi chetzia lipsolat gviya. Half of that shiur that we mentioned in the Mishnah yesterday was for baita minuga. Remember, baita minuga means a house that has sarat. And half of that half shiur is in order to make a person to become tameh. So it says over here like this, Tana. This is how we're starting today. Begim Lamud Aleph on the top. V'chatzi chetzi chetzia, and half of the half, right, which is basically an eighth of the kikar, right, is a shiur letameh tumat ochlin. Is the shiur to make tumat ochlin food susceptible to become tameh. Okay, v'tana didan my tamalotani. So why didn't our Tana actually bring all these shiurim down to do a tumat ochlin? So answers the Gemara, mishum delo shavu l'shiurai lo dayu, because it's not always the same shiur, which means, right, it's not always, since it's not the same shiur for all the different things, so therefore we didn't bring it down. The Tanya was learned in a Braita, kama shiur chetzia pras, how much is the shiur of the volume of half of a pras? Shte beitzim, it's going to be 2 eggs, chaser kim'ah, minus a little bit. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Rabbi Yosef says, shte beitzim sochakot. There were 2 big eggs, right? Shier Rebbe, shte beitzim ve'od. So Rebbe came and he actually did it that it was going to be 2 beitzim and a little bit more. So kama ve'od, how much is a little bit more? He says, echad me'esrim bebeitza. It's 1/20th of a beitza. One second, I've got an 8 here. Okay. Or some people say it's 1/40th, but okay. Ve'ilu legabe tumat ochlin. Now to do a tumat ochlin, Tanya, we learned in a Braita, Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Dosa amru, Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Dosa both said, kebeitza she'amru kamo v'klipata. The kabetza that we're talking about, it's a beitza with the klipa, with the peel, right, with the shell around the beitza, around the egg. The chachamim say, kamua b'li klipata, it's the egg without the klipa, without the shell, which is surrounding it. So you see from here that since according to everybody, it's not the same shiur, which is mitameh, which is exactly a kabetza, but rather it could be a little bit less, a little bit more. So because of that, we didn't mention it in the Mishnah because we didn't want to get into all the machlokot. Okay? So Amar Rafram bar Papa. Yeah, I'm sure you remember that name, Rafram bar Papa, right? In the 10 names of the children of Bar Papa. At the end of the Masechet, when we do a Siyum Masechet, we say one of them is Rafram bar Papa, all the Bar Papas, yeah? So he says, Amar Rafram bar Papa, Amar Rav Chasta, says Rafram bar Papa in the name of Rav Chasta, Zod divrei Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yosef. That's the words of Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yosef. אבל חכמים אומרים, חכמים say, כביצה מחצה שוחקות, right? It's like a ביצה מחצה, 1.5 eggs, but big eggs. ומן חכמים, who's חכמים? רבי יוחנן בן ברוקה. It's Rabbi Yochanan ben Berakah. That he's the one that says that the kikar that Rabbi Yochanan ben Berakah is talking about for Eiruvin Chubin was going to be half, right, of the Beitzah Umechza. So says the Gemara, Pshita, obviously, right? You don't even have to say this. What's he coming to teach you? It's Pashut that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Berakah, half of the pras is a Beitzah Umechza. So he says, no, Sochakot Atalishvin. It's coming to teach you that they're big eggs, not regular eggs, but rather big eggs. That's what it's coming to teach you. So Kiata Rav Dimi Amar, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said, Shiger Bonios leRebbi. Bonios is the name of a person. So Bonios sent to Rebbe, Modia de Kundis, Amidat Se'ah. So it's a measurement of a Se'ah. Se'ah is one of the measurements that are brought down in the Gemara. The Min Neusa, right, from the ones that they used to use in this place of Min Neusa. Veshier Rebbe, and Rebbe came and he calculated it, Matanu Shvais Rebeim. There was actually 217 beitzim, 217 eggs. So says the Gemara, Haseah dehecha. What seah is this exactly? Yeah, that it's going to be 217 eggs? What are we talking about? Ida midbarit. If we're talking about a seah midbarit, which means the one which is during the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, me'ar ba'im ve'arba havya. So it's 144 eggs, not 217, right? Vidiru shalmit. If it's going to be a Se'ah Yerushalmit, which is more later on during the time of Yerushalayim, not during the time of Moshe Rabbeinu in the desert, so it's not anymore 144, it's 173, right? And if it's going to be a Tzipori, right, which is after right? Already the Jewish quarters were uprooted in the Galil. So Matayim Vesheva, it's 207. But you told me now 217, which means that you keep on seeing that the numbers became bigger and bigger and bigger. It kept on, right, increasing. But still, it never got to 217. So the Gemara answers, Lo'olam de Tziporit. Really, it is of Tziporit, which was 207, but we're on 217. The Aiti Chalta, right? But you brought the Chala, the Shadi Alaihu, and you added on to the 207. So therefore, that's why it was 217. So the Gemara is going to ask, fine, and how much is the shiur of Chala? At the end of the day, it's Tamne. It's 8 beitzim. So 207 and 8 is 215, not 217. Akati batzalu, you're still missing 2. So says the Gemara, Ela aiti ve'odot de Rebbe. You need the ve'odot of Rebbe, the Shadia Leun. You have to add it. This Tosefet of Rebbe is in order to get the volume of a Beitzah Midbarit, they used to come and they used to actually come and add on the od, right? The something ve'od. This and a little bit more. This and a little bit more.
1/20th. 1/20th.
Exactly, the 1/20th, which is the little bit more, the little bit more, a little bit more. So because of that, that's what they added in. So the Gemara is going to ask a very simple question. If you're going to tell me it's a little bit more, if you're going to add that on that 1/20th on every single one, right? So then what's going on? You understand? Well, it's going to become much more. If you had to add 1/20th to every single one of these 215 or whatever it is that you're getting, you're going to have much more than 217. You're not just adding on 2 more. It's going to be much more. Because here it says you're going to have another 215 of the 1/20ths. So the Gemara answers, since it's not going to be a kabetza, so they didn't actually mark it down. Meaning, since we're not going to come and we're going to say it's 217 beitzim, 0.7. We don't do that. It's either 217 or 218. So because of that, they just didn't even calculate it. They just wrote it down and that's it. Okay? So the Gemara now says, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita, Seah Yerushalmit Yetira Midbarit Shtut. It comes out that the Seah Yerushalmit was more than a Seah Midbarit 1/6. Okay, because remember, how much was the Midbarit? 144. How much was the Yerushalmit? 173. So 173 is going to be 1/6 more than 144. Okay? Then it says, the Tziporit is more than the Yerushalmit, also 1/6, because it was from the 173 to 207. So if you add a 1/6 to 173, it comes out to 207. Okay? Nimtzet, so it comes out, Shel Tziporit, the one of the Tziporit is more, Yetera al Midbarit, Shlish. So it comes out that Tziporit is also going to be more than the Midbarit, also 1/3. It's coming out that it's a 1/3. It's not going to be a 6. So one more time. Yerushalmit more than Midbar. Midbar was during the time of Moshe Rabbeinu in the desert. Yerushalmi was when they came into Yerushalayim. Tzipori when it was uprooted. Yerushalmi was in Yerushalayim. And Tzipori when it was uprooted, right? Meaning that we were sent into exile, basically, right? We were uprooted. So therefore it comes out that Yerushalmit is more than Midbarit, 1/6. Tziporit is more than Yerushalmit, 1/6. So it comes out that Tziporit more than Midbarit is 1/3, correct? 1/6, 1/6 is a 1/3. So he says that it's 2/6, which is 1/3. Okay? So says the Gemara, Shlish Teman, right? Are you talking about a Shlish of a Seah? Which one are we talking about? If you're telling me 1/3 of Midbarit, Michti, let me see. Shlish Midbarit, 1/3 of Midbarit, remember it was 144. So how much is a 1/3 of 144? Kama have? It's 48. Correct? Everyone's with me with the maths? Today is a math class.
Yeah, wait. 1/3 of 144 is 48, correct? Yes,
144 divided by 3 is 48. Yeah, very good. The ilu odfa. Now, if you're going to tell me now that the Seat Tziporit is more than Midbarit, Shitinu Tlat is 63. Because remember, how much was the Tziporit? 207 minus 144 is 63. So now he's going to come and he's going to say, 1 second, right? Ve'ela, but what? So it's going to come out that if you're going to tell me it's 63, right? So ve'ela, so it comes out that shlish Yerushalmit, 1/3 of a Yerushalmit, right? It cannot be. Yeah, it's not 1/3 more. One more time, right? You have Midbari, Yerushalmi, Tzipori. 144, 173, 207. Correct or not? Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay,
You're
so
correct.
now what we have these numbers, we said the one of the Yerushalmi, which is going to be 173, is 1/6 more than the 144. 1/6, 1/6. Then we said that Tzipori, which is 207, is 1/6 more than the Yerushalmi. Okay, so 207 is 1/6 more than the 173. Now we say, according to that calculation, that the Tzipori is 1/3 more than the Midbari. Because if the Yerushalmi is 1/6 more, and the other one, Tzipori, is 1/6 more, so it's 1/3 more. Okay?
Yes.
So now we're going to make a very simple calculation. How do you do 1/3 more? He says, if you're going to take a third, right, of the, how do you call it? The third of the Midbari. How much was Midbari? 144. How much is a third of 144?
48.
Right? 48. So if you're going to tell me then that you're adding, right, 48 to the 144, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get to the 207. Okay?
No.
So it cannot be a third of the Midbari. So says the Gemara, but rather, what does it have to be? It has to be a third, right? Vilu otfat shitin v'tlat, because the difference between 144 and 207 is 63. It's not 48.
63. Yeah, that's 63. Yeah.
Okay, ve'ela, but rather, it has to be a third of the tzipori. So shlish tida, how much is a third of 207?
A third of 207 is
69.
Okay.
69. Yeah? Shivin.
207 a third.
207 divided by 3. 69.
No.
The Gemara says it.
So
Shivin
it's gonna be 1/6 of Mevarim.
One more time?
It's gonna be 1/6 more of Mevarim.
No. 1 minute. We're on a third more of Midbari. 1 minute.
Yeah.
What did you want to say, Benjamin?
Yeah. Like to go from 143 to 207, it's gonna be plus 1/3 of Mevarim.
No, because if you're at 144 to 207, one
No,
third of
1/6. I know.
no, but it's 1/3. Is we said that the Yerushalmi is a sixth more of Midbari, and the Tzipori is a sixth more of Yerushalmi. So therefore, Tzipori is 1/3 more than the Midbari. So now we said, how much is a third of Tzipori? A third of Tzipori is 69. The Gemara says it. Shivin nechechada, 70 minus 1. 70 minus 1 is 69. Ve'ilu odfa, how much is the difference between them? 63. So it can't be a third of the Tzipori either, because a third of 207 is 69. 144, which was Midbari plus 69, right, is going to be, what was it? Plus 144 is 213. We said it's 207. So therefore, it's not a third of the Tzipori. But rather, Rabbi Yirmiyah comes and he says, Hachi kamar, this is what it means to say. Nimtzet se'ah shel tzipori yetera al se'ah midbarit karov l'shlish shela. That it's almost a third more. Okay? U'shlish shela, and the third more is karov lemechsa de midbarit, is close to half of the midbarit. Because remember, if it's 69, which is a third, how much is that? It's almost half of the 144. How much is half of 144?
72.
72. How much is this? 69.
Yeah.
So 69, which is a third of the tzipori, is almost half of the midbari. Everyone understood?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good, Richard. I'm glad. When I didn't hear you, I was worried.
I didn't do the math, but I take your word for it. I'm following.
No, don't take my word for it. There's a calculator. I'm doing it on.
No, I see it. I like it. It's okay.
Okay, very good. Now I want it to become clear. Don't just take it for granted. Fine. So says the Gemara, Matkifla Ravina. Ravina comes and he asks, Mindi karov katani. Does it make sense that we're talking about everything is karov and not b'diuk? Meaning, I'm going to tell you, Richard, this is 70. You're going to tell me it's not 70, it's 63.
You know,
It's almost
in
70.
Gemara that deals with Shirim, the whole Gemara is Shirim. It's very unusual.
Yeah, it's true. Here we like Shirim. Yeah. So it says here, does the Gemara do these things that it's always like almost? Usually we're very precise. Well, it's almost, and this is almost, and the other one's almost, everything's almost. So it says the Gemara, Ravina, but rather Ravina says, Hachi Kamar, this is what it means to say. Nimtzet shlish shel tzipori beve'odiot shel Rebbe yetera al mechza shel mibarit shlish beitza. You're right. The shlish of a tzipori, remember, the shlish is a third of the tzipori. So you're doing a third of 207, right? Which was, how much was the third of 207? 69. Yeah. So that's 69 and the odiot of Rebbe. Meaning that when you take the ve'od, you remember the 1/20th of Rebbe, the extra 1/20th? So when you keep on adding all those things, it's going to come out more than a half, right, of the mibariot of shlish beitza. Okay? Which means that if you take the 69 plus the ve'od of the 69, it's actually going to come out even a little bit more than the 72 of the midbarit, which is half of the midbarit. Okay? Fine. Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Braita. Reshit harisotichem chala tarimu truma. We're talking about now the mitzvah chala. Chala is reshit harisotichem, the beginning of your dough, or I don't know what you want to call it exactly. Okay? Higim lamud bet. Kedei isotechem. It's enough for your isa. The kama isotechem. How much is your isa? The isa midbar. We're talking about the isa of the midbar of the desert. The kama isa. How much is that? The omer. We're talking about the korban omer, right? This is what you bring on the 16th, right, of Nisan. So the sirita efa, who it's a 10th of the efa. Mikan amru. So from here we learn shiva revaim, right, which is basically says 7 reva hakavs, 7 quarter of the kavs. Kemach, the odd and a little bit more, is obligated in chala, which is shisha of Yerushalmit, which is 5 of tzipori. Okay? So again, this is all measurements.
You noticed that.
Yeah? They're all, but we're trying to put them all into like, by the way, you should know, many times nowadays we also get confused between the pounds, ounces, kilos of this. You know, you have to start speaking about different things. Every single bottle that you pick up, you've got ounces and liters and milliliters, and then you start becoming a pint and this. You're like, where's your head now? You understand? Because if you're going to start doing all the calculations, it gets you confused. But that's what we're doing here. We're trying to tell you of all the different calculations in the exact same thing in chala, which is going to be in how much in Yerushalmit, how much of tzipori, how much in sein, and how much in all these things.
Rabbi, a few daf ago, we talked about challah, and the amount that was said regarding like a typical housewife was a large amount. I mean, when my wife makes 5 pounds of challah, she only takes a little bit and then burns it up. She doesn't take out an enormous amount and burn it up.
You're right, but that's the halakha. The halakha is kol shehu. You take a little bit of amount, and that's already enough.
I mean, from what I remember a few dafim ago, and maybe we'll discuss it again. I don't know where this little amount.
It was 124th or 148th. It depended whether it was of a balabait, of an achtom, or a balabait, whether it was the baker or the balabait. The balabait took more than the baker.
So right, and so 148th. Do the housewives take 148th or less?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I know
either.
that a lot of women will always take, how do you say punyo? Like a fistful. Like they go like this and they take a fistful, no matter how big and no matter how small. Because technically speaking, a fistful is big.
It's like a melolugma. Depends on the size of the person.
Okay, that's true. Depends on the size of their fist, right? I'm sure some wives, they go boxing, so I'm sure their fists became very, very big. Fine. Let's go.
Yes, in today's age.
Okay, very good. Mikan amru. So from here we see how kemidah zo. If somebody is going to eat like this midah of the man, hareze bari. It's eating the proper amount that's going to make him healthy. Umvorach, and it's going to actually be, right, which it's blessed because he's not eating too much. Yeter al ken, if he's going to eat more than that, Ravtan, he's considered like a Ravtan, a glutton, right? This is this guy that he's Vepachot mikan, but if he's going to eat less than this, mekulkal b'me'av, it's not going to be good in his stomach. It's not going to digest properly. So again, here the Gemara is actually teaching us also proper nutrition etiquette, of how to eat and so on and so forth. Fine.
Calorie.
Yeah, how many calories and how many carbs and everything. Fine, based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Okay, let's go. Says a Mishnah.
Picture coming up.
Picture, very good. So Richard already said picture coming up. Let's share the screen. Here you go.
What number? 805?
805. No, sorry. Yeah, 805. Pegema Ubet, here it is. Anshe Chatzer, here it is. This is the picture. Okay? So it says a Mishnah, Anshe Chatzer ve'anshe mirpeset, sheshakhu velo ervu. This is Anshe mirpeset. This is like a balcony or porch. I'm also blocking part of the picture. I'm going to put it over here. Here you go. This is part of the porch. Yeah, you have a balcony, a porch over here. You have houses. Look at the mezuzot, right? And then also in the Chatzer, this is all one courtyard. Okay, one courtyard. So they forgot and they did not make an eruv. Now what happens is like this. It says like this. Kol shegavoa asarat tfachim, anything which is going to be 10 tfachim tall or more, belongs to the mirpeset. Okay, and therefore you could take from the mirpeset to there. Pachot mikan, if it's going to be less, lechatzer. So for example, here on the left side, if you see, here you have 10 tfachim. So if this is going to be less than 10 tfachim, belongs to the chatzer. If this is going to be more than 10 tfachim, it belongs to the up here. Okay, it belongs to the second floor. Okay? Next, chulyat bor. This is chulyat bor. Look, this is a pit, but this is like the dirt of a pit. Okay, if you see it over here, this is a pit. So it says chulyat bor ve'asela, or stones. Okay, I don't know if there's another picture of stone. Yeah, there's the stones. There's a sela. This is the stones, which is the next picture. And the previous picture was the chulyat bor of the pits. So chulyat bor ve'asela gevoim asarat tfachim. If it's going to be 10 tfachim tall, it goes to the mirpeset. Okay, if it's going to be less than that, it belongs to the chatzer. But when are these words? He says over here, these words are only going to be besmucha. If it's close by, okay, to the mirpeset. Aval bemuflege, but if it's going to be very far away, right? Afilu gavoa asarat tfachim lechatzer. Even if it's going to be 10 tfachim tall, it goes to the chatzer. Ve'ezu smucha, what is considered smucha? Kol she'ena rechoka arba tfachim. If it's not going to be 4 tfachim distance. So in this picture, you see over here, these are all the 4 tfachim, 4 tfachim, 4 tfachim. You see? If it's going to be more than 4 tfachim, right, then it's considered mufleget, too far away, and therefore belongs to the chatzer, even though it's going to be 10 tfachim tall. But if it's going to be within the 4 tfachim, you're allowed to use it, the people on the top. Okay, the ones on the mirpeset. Until here, we're clear? Okay. So says the Gemara, Shita, obviously, right, it's pashut, right, that when you have 2 chatzerot that they did not make an eruv together, it's going to be pashut that what? That lezeh bepetach velezeh bepetach. Each one, they have their own entrance, which is normal to go into. V'hainu chalon sheben shtei chatzerot. So it's the exact same halacha, like a chalon between 2 different chatzerot. This is the next picture. You remember, this is the window which is in between 2 chatzerot, that if it's within the 10 tfachim, and it's 4 by 4, you're allowed to make an eruv between both of them. So it says the Gemara, lezeh bezrika velezeh bezrika. If it's not enough, right, which means that one of them is only enough to do zrika, to throw, right, because it's going to be more than 10 tfachim, and therefore you cannot pass it through unless you're going to throw it, right, velezeh bezrika, hainu kotel sheben shtei chatzerot. So then that's the next picture, which is a kotel, right? Lezeh bepetach is here, right? Each one has a petach, an entrance. So he says over here, this is this one now, the kotel ben shtei chatzerot, the wall between 2 chatzerot, 4 tfachim width and 10 tfachim tall. Okay? Lezeh b'shilshul v'zeh b'shilshul. If each one is only enough to be mishalshel, which means you could not even pass the things over unless it's going to be with a chevel, like with a rope, right? Or with a hand. So that's going to be, this is lezeh zirka, right? He doesn't give you a picture, but basically you're passing over the things like with a rope. So he says, in such a case, so that's like a charitz, a ditch between two chatzerot. Basically like this, what we're trying to say is, we already learned 3 different types of halachot, right? We learned, right, the 3 different halachot, whether it's a ditch, whether it's a wall, or whether it's a window. And each one had their halachot. So the question is, our case, why don't you compare it to one of those 3? And that's what we keep on saying. Yeah, our case should be compared to one of those 3 at least. So says the Gemara, what happens if one of them has an entrance and the other one you're only able to throw it through? So that's like Rabbi Natan, named Rabbi Nachman, that he said that when you have a kotel sheben shtei chatzirot, that one of them is going to be equal to the floor and the other one is taller up. Let's see if you have a picture of that one. You do have the zed b'shilshul, this one, like with the rope. This one, this picture. The Rabbi Baravuna Rav Nachman, that on this side, the wall is 10 tfachim because it's equal to the ground. On this side, the ground was elevated. So since the ground was elevated, the wall is less than 10 tfachim. So therefore, he's trying to say that if on one side you have an entrance and the other side you have to actually use like this type of a rope, so then it's like this case, which is basically elevated or not. If one of them has the entrance and one of them has b'shilshul that you have to actually go over with a rope, so that's like if she's b'yam Rav Nachman. See this one. This one's the throwing. Yeah, this is 10 tfachim, and this one is you have to actually less than 10 tfachim. So he says, so then that's Rav Shiz b'yam Rav Nachman is this case, where basically you had, this is less than 10 tfachim, because this is lower down, and this is higher up. So the ditch on this side is 10 tfachim, and the ditch on this side is less than 10 tfachim. If one person is going to be b'shilshul and one of them is rika, so this one again you need is more than 10 tfachim, this is less than 10 tfachim. So this you throw it up, and this he has to bring it down with the rope. So this is the, right? So he says, so what's happening? Right? What's halacha? Amar Rav says, Shnehen asurim, both of them are asur. U'Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Notrin oto lezeh b'shilshul, v'lezeh tashvish b'nacha, v'lezeh tashvisho b'kasheh. Which means like this. If you remember, we had a concept. If you use it, let's say we're both able to use it. But for me, it's easier to use than for you. For you, it would be much more difficult to use. So we already set a general rule. If for me, it's easy to use and for you, it's more difficult to use, we give it to the one which is easier to use. Okay, so therefore, if right now, right, I'm able to use it only with throwing, and the other one is able to use it with shilshul, which is a rope. So we're going to give it to the one which you could do with throwing, but throwing is much easier than doing it with the rope.
No, it says opposite. It says opposite.
Opposite?
We award it to the chatzer, does it by lowering, not throwing. Rav, are you reading Rav or are you reading after that?
No, I'm reading Shmuel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, Rav said both of them are prohibited.
No. Rav said, Shmuel said we award it to the chatzer that has access by means of lowering.
Right, which is the rope.
Not by throwing.
Hold on one second. Sorry, one more time. Let me, I got confused. 1 second. Amar Rav says, Shneim asurim. So according to Rav, both of them are prohibited, whether from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top, which means whether the one of the throwing or the one of lowering the rope, they're both going to be prohibited. Shmuel says, Notninoto, we're going to give it to the one which is using of the lowering of the rope, right? Because here the lowering of the rope is easier, and the one of throwing is more difficult. Whenever you have the easier one and the difficult one, we always give it to the one of the easier one. And therefore, it's going to be permitted from the upper one to the lower one and not from the lower one to the upper one. Okay? Because again, this is in the middle. So you're right. So it's easier for the, going downwards instead of going upwards. Okay? Fine. Until here, everyone clear? So Tanam, we learned in the Mishnah, Anshe Chatzer v'Anshe Mirpeset, Sheshachu v'lo irvu. When you have people of a Chatzer and a Mirpeset, that they forgot and they did not make an eruv, kol gavoa asarat tfachim mirpeset. Anytime that you're going to have 10 tfachim, it belongs to the mirpeset. Pachom mikan, if it's less than 10 tfachim, it belongs to the chatzer. Katsal gadaita, you're going to think my mirpeset. What is considered a mirpeset? Says Beidalad Amud Aleph, bnei aliyah, the upper part, the upper ones. And what's called a mirpeset? The kasalki mirpeset, that they're going up with in a mirpeset. They're going up with the balconies, correct? Almas, you see from here. Kol lezeh b'shushuv v'lezeh b'zrika. If this could go in lowering and this could go in throwing, you give it to the one which is lowering. So basically, what we're trying to say is, you already learned that from our Mishnah. Because our Mishnah said when you had the upper floor and the lower floor, the chatzer and the mirpeset, and you had that it was 10 tvachim, who do you give it to? Not to the lower one that they could throw it up, you give it to the upper one that they could lower it down. So it's already written mefurash in the Mishnah. So the Gemara is going to say, no, Kedam Ravuna, like Ravuna says, Lotan Adarim Mirpeset, or the ones that are living in the Mirpeset. The ones that are literally living in the Mirpeset. We continue Be'ezrat Hashem on Sunday.